Well, hello, my loves, and happy Sunday to you. Today I'm doing things a little differently. I've already completed my project. I just finished it, and it's a journal page, and I'm going to explain a little bit more in depth about it. A couple of things before I do that. So the stencils that I use today will be on sale, and there are 4 or 5 of them. And there's going to be a couple of collage papers. There's going to be a window and some postcards that will be available in the subscriber library and in the membership in the Sunday Inspiration Breakdown. What else do I need to tell you? I don't think there's anything else. So today's project was inspired. I'm not using a book or anything. I got some news about a family member this week, and I needed some space to process through it. And that's exactly what I did today. And I wanted to film it because I felt like this would be a good opportunity to just remind you that our journal time is our time, and that it doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be anything. Except for a place for us to process, document life, celebrate joy, all of those things that we go through and all of the different seasons of our lives. And I've been really, really trying to live that for you over this last year. And so when I got the news of my sister, who I am not close with, that she had passed, and it was a shock. We are not close at all, and we haven't talked in years. And I chose to live a different life, a different lifestyle than her, and so I made some choices along my path that was a place where we weren't close. She just lived a lifestyle that I didn't want to be around. I didn't want my kids around, etc., etc. And without going into a lot of detail, we both had our childhood struggles. We both lived in the same house, and she chose to deal with it one way, and I chose to deal with it a different way. And while the choices that I made were for myself and for healing and for wholeness and a whole lot of reasons, when I got the news, we weren't close. And so my husband asked me, "How are you feeling?" I said, "I'm sad," but I didn't really, at the moment, feel any true emotion until I started kind of thinking about it and second guessing my decisions and different things like that. And I needed a place to kind of process all of that stuff, because what it did was it brought up all the old stuff that I'd worked really hard through therapy to heal, to get past the abuse and all of the stuff. And it brought up a lot of that stuff again. And I was questioning a lot of things. And so I wrote a lot. I wrote pages full. And I do write a lot on a regular basis, because that is my form of just processing and just getting it all out there. And then a lot of the times I take that to my journal, and those are the journals that you don't see. Those are the places that are scary and ugly and beautiful and all of the things in between. But it's a place where I process. But I processed today for you so that you could see that there's so much meaning and so much healing in the process. And so often people tell me that they can't create because of trauma, because of whatever it might be, a diagnosis or a family member or a death or a past, our childhood. I mean, we all have a past. We all have a thing. And they say, "I've just stopped creating." And it breaks my heart. And I know I've said that over and over the last few months, but I really want to drive it home. And so I wanted to live that for you today, in the fact that I processed it all a lot. I turned on my music and I just came here without a whole lot of thought. But in the process of all of this, I was doing my social media scheduling and I grabbed, I grab, pieces that I've done and I post it, and I post inspirational messages and all that kind of stuff. Well, in that process, during all of the things that I was kind of going through in my mind, I came across a piece that I had done years ago. One of my, really early on in my journey of mixed media. And it was probably, 8 or 9 years ago maybe. And it was called Beautiful Scars. And so I saw it and it stopped me, because that's what it felt like all of a sudden, these beautiful scars that I was dealing with. And so I went back. It took me a long time to go way back. It was like at the beginning of when I started my blog posts. And what came up in it was the most amazing thing that I wrote. And I just started crying. It was just like this overwhelming, all of these things. And so it was that piece, and that blog post was called Beautiful Scars. And so I'm going to share just a little bit more about that in just a second. But what I want to do is I want to take you through what I did and show you the healing part of our art. So here's my page, and it's messy. It's got a gajillion layers, and you're going to see all of that. But I started my page with, I'd taken part of my journal, pages that I had written, and I tore them out of my journal and I ripped them up and I put them in the background as a way of just like release. Like, okay, I said it. I'm good. I've said what I needed to say. And I covered it up, and I continued to cover and layer and cover and layer as a way of saying, okay, I'm doing my processing. This is part of the healing process. I tore pages back. I used masking tape to pull back some of the paper. Even after all the layers were on it, I tore it back because it felt like this part right here, you can see the writing, my writing underneath. It felt like those scars. It felt like the tears of the things that the tears in our heart as we experience stuff. All the writing that I put down on that paper, I was using a ballpoint pen. It smeared. It made a mess. It was so good. It was so good. And then I used gesso. I used my Utrecht gesso to create more texture, and I pulled some of that back. I used my dough scraper. I grabbed and I went, and I grabbed and I went. Whatever, as I was thinking through, because I'm thinking through all of the things that I wrote and what I was feeling and the sadness and, the questioning, all of those things. And I just grabbed what felt like the right next thing without a thought of how it was going to work out. The only thing that I knew was that I was going to use this piece from the Beautiful Scars piece that started this whole process. And of course, this kind of goes along with me taking pieces of my art and reusing them. And so, but I cut this out. I printed out, let's see, what did I do with it? Oh, this one's I decided to make this available to you if you want it in the resource library, and it'll be available in the membership, a downloadable of this piece, and it's the Beautiful Scars piece. It's old, and it's my old style, but it's okay. So I cut that out, and I knew that was my main focal point. And then I began to think about, okay, I've made something beautiful out of those old scars. And so that's where the flowers came in. And then this is Fragile, Handle with Care. There are tender spots in our stories that we have to be gentle with ourselves with. Postcard, message to myself. This is a message to myself that my scars are beautiful. And I'm going to share more about that in just a second. And this window has a significant meaning. I'm not going to talk about that because it's really personal. But that window has a significant meaning for me. And then I layered, and I just layered and layered. I used some spray paint because it felt like the right thing. It felt like this hard, dark spot in my story that was messy and kind of, graphic and that kind of thing. So that's what it felt right. So I used this stencil with my spray paint. And then I used some other stencils just for some light pattern here and constantly underneath. And I was going over it and bringing it back and going over it and bringing it back. And I wasn't going to stop until I felt like I had thought it all through. And I didn't care where it ended up until, because I just knew that I needed to go until I had gone through all of the things that I'd been saying to myself, the things that I needed to let go of, the things that I needed to forgive, all those things. And so I layered and layered and layered. What else about this piece can I tell you that I remember? I was in such a flow state as I was doing it. I had music on. It was quiet. I just was here and present with me and this page and processing through it all. I used charcoal pencil for my additional marks around and shading. I used soft pastel pencil to kind of bring out some highlight because there was a lot going on and I wanted to kind of bring this out just a little bit and kind of simplify. So I needed to highlight, and I used a green soft pastel pencil to kind of highlight some of these hand-drawn leaves. But this is the beauty. The butterfly, this is the beauty in the scars. And then let's see, what else do I need to tell you about this page? So I used fluid matte medium to put all my papers down with. I used gesso as my white. I used cottage white, and I used this kind of Titan Buff or unbleached titanium white. I gotta find a name for this. These are my house paint colors. I used olive green. I used burnt sienna and magenta and Algerian crimson hue. And the Algerian crimson hue and the magenta were for the flowers. And then obviously the olive green for the leaves. Oh, I did stencil out my flowers, which is this stencil here, the peony buds and blooms. I stenciled it out onto paper because I knew that I wanted to arrange this. And I wanted the flowers to show, and I didn't want to stencil them out on the page and then not have it in the right spot. So it's a great way to, have your painted images or your stenciled images and still be able to kind of move them around and see what's the perfect spot for them. So I stenciled them out on just a regular piece of copy paper and put them down, and then came back over them and fluffed them up with some brush strokes. I'm trying to remember all of the things that I did. Just came back with some other marks. I did use, for the background, I used, this was fun too. I used my soft pastel stick and some sepia acrylic ink. And the reason I used my stick is because I needed to get that mark down. It felt like power. It felt strong. It felt like I was releasing all of the things that were inside of me. So I was making marks, and then I came back with water over that brown soft pastel and then added some sepia to it, and it was perfect. It showed off the texture and the layers and all of the things that I had started with. And then I began to build on top of that. There's not a lot of hard techniques. There's not a lot of any of that. It's just lots of layers. And the layers represent so much for me in my story. And that is what our journals are for. So I used my dough scraper, credit card, palette knife, and regular brushes. And I think that is it. Okay, so that was my really healing journal time. And I really so want that for you. I want there to be this place where you can come and let it all go. And that's what our journals are for. That's so much what they're for. And when people tell me they stop creating, oh, it's the best thing for us. So back to my story about finding the beautiful scars piece. So I went back and I looked for the blog post, and it took some time because it was way back there. It was at the very beginning. But this is what I wrote. And this is, I'm quoting from, so my coach, Marie Forleo, she's been my coach for a long time. She wrote this in one of her blog posts, so I was kind of reiterating it. She said in her email, she's quoting Chris Cleave from the book Little Bee, which is a great book, by the way. And I just reordered on my Kindle so I could reread it. So it says, she says, please agree with me. No, Chris Cleave says, please agree with me that a scar is never ugly. That's what the scar maker wants us to believe. The scar is never ugly. That is what the scar maker wants us to believe. But you and I, we must see all scars as beauty. Okay? Because a scar does not form on the dying. A scar means I survived. Please agree with me that a scar is never ugly. I want us to say this over and over again. That's what the scar maker wants us to believe. But you and I, we must see all scars as beauty. Because a scar does not form on the dying, it means we survived. So Marie goes on to say, how many of us believe that our shortcomings and scars, whatever they might be, whatever they might take, make us weak, ugly, and unworthy? How many of us feel a sense of shame over our perceived flaws, failings, and imperfections? The truth is, none of us are without scars. None of us are without flaws. But embracing our scars is the path to a fully lived life. Our scars build strength. Our scars cultivate courage. Our scars deepen our compassion and widen our hearts to make space and comfort for others. Whatever your scars may be, know that they do not diminish you one bit. They don't make you less. They don't make you damaged goods. They make you beautiful. So let's make a pact right now that our scars are never ugly. Our scars mean we are alive. I read that, and I'm reading it now, and I'm still getting all... It's just such a true testament that all of our scars are part of our story. And when we deal with them, we work through them, we heal from them, we grow from them. All of that, all of our scars are part of who we are, and they make us beautiful. They make us all, like she said, more compassionate, more open for others to be able to let their scars be known. Our scars are beautiful. And that's what I did today. I made that feeling that I was having, that doubt, that shame, that guilt, all of those things, from those scars, from the death of my sister, I took those to the journal page and I worked through them. And will continue to work through them. It's work. It's working through the stuff and forgiving and asking for forgiveness. And mind you, forgiving doesn't mean we forget. But when we forgive, we set ourselves free. And we let go of bitterness and anger and all of those things. And we grow and we become this person with more wisdom and depth. So I just want to remind you today that your scars, whatever they are, however little or however big, make you beautiful. They are beauty if we celebrate them in the right way. And if you are needing to process those scars, this is the place to do it. And possibly a therapist and somebody that you trust. But your journal is a friend, and you can layer and layer and let it all out. So I hope that if you need to do that, you get to do that soon. All right, my loves, I hope your Sunday is restful and peaceful. I hope you know your scars are beautiful because you're alive. All right, my loves, have a wonderful Sunday, and always, always know that you are loved.